Tonight's event is dedicated to Bangladeshi communities both here and abroad. The Bangladeshi region has suffered devastating losses, not only due to the COVID-19 pandemic that has impacted every corner of the globe, but also due to Cyclone Amphan, one of the fiercest cyclones to hit the region in decades. Here at home, the Bangladeshi community in New York City has been one of the hardest hit communities during the pandemic, with a rising number of cases, job losses, and so much more. But we are resilient. We always have been. And it has often been in poetry and verse that we have found our resiliency. The history of poetry in Bangladesh is intrinsically linked to its fight for language and independence. It is in our collective struggle that we have also always managed to find collective salvation with the use of verse, song, and art. Tonight, we're honoring that commitment to the power of words with three incredible Bangladeshi American poets whose work manages to simultaneously resonate with our deepest of internal dialogues while also taking us across the oceans to our other home on the other side of the world. Tonight's reading is also meant to serve as a spotlight on an organization that is working on the ground every day with local Bangladeshi women in the Bronx. Laal NYC is dedicated to providing resources that help these women lead healthy, engaged, and joyful lives. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, they have pivoted all of their programming and resources to providing direct assistance to the families most in need. We encourage you to check out their work at laalnyc.org, and you can donate to their COVID relief fund at bit.ly/laalrelieffund. The link is up in the corner of this chat, so you can easily access the fundraiser. And now for some poetry. Tonight's first reader is Tarfia Faizullah. Tarfia was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Bangladeshi immigrants and raised in Texas. She is the author of 2 poetry collections, Registers of Illuminated Villages and Seam. Her writing has appeared widely in the US and abroad. Please join me in welcoming Tarfia to our virtual stage.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here and to be reading tonight with such talented and thought-provoking Bangladeshi writers and thinkers such as Samira and Nadia. I feel like right now, more than ever, solidarity is so crucial. Thank you so much to the Asian American Writers Workshop for creating this space for us tonight, and to Laal NYC for the tough and necessary work that you all do. The first poem I'm going to read is a poem I wrote for my aunt originally following her death. And I ended up dedicating it to her and to the Rohingya and thinking about the huge refugee crisis that faces Bangladesh. This is called Infinity Ghazal, beginning with lice and never ending with lies, for Hasna Henna and the Rohingya. Lice? My aunt once drew a comb through my hair steadily. She wouldn't let what feeds on blood eat my inner tree. Where now is the word for such intimacy? I know it's still, but all I see are jungles burnt of our rarest trees. My point is, it takes a while to say, I am a fire hazard, or a household of rare birds is another way to say tree. I wrote one draft of this poem, and then she died. Will I forget her name, Hasna Henna? Let's smell a tree, night-blooming jasmine, oh so heavenly. A sapling succeeds by flourishing from a tree's seed. How else to perfume these needs we breathe? A sapling, of course, being a small and soft tree, i.e. baby tree. I grieve the rice she fed me off a palm leaf. Only now can I fully marvel how finely formed is a tree. Someone I loved said to stop with the oceans in my poems. Well, oceans and oceans and oceans. We drowned so many trees. Night blooming tree, baby tree, once and future tree. Lately, all I think about are trees. Read this again to replace tree with refugee. Tarfia means joy in the margins, plus one who lies to protect trees. The next poem I'm going to read is the first poem in my first book, Seam, and it's called 1971. 1971, of course, being the year that Bangladesh became its own independent country. And I'm just going to read a little of historical context, and then I'm going to read the poem. This is also going to be my last poem. It's a longer one. And yes, thank you again so much, and thank you all so much for being here with us. 1971. In West Texas, oil froths luxurious from hard ground, while across Bangladesh, bayoneted women stain pond water blossom. Your mother, age 8, follows your grandmother down worn stone steps to the old pond, waits breathless for her to finish untwining from herself the simple cotton sari to wade alone into green water. The same color, your ma thinks, as a dress she'd like to twirl the world in. She knows the strange men joining them daily for meals mean her no harm. They look like her brothers do. Nights they jump back over the iron gate, drenched in the sense of elsewhere, only thinner, so thin. In the distance, thunder, though the sky reflected in the water her ma floats in burns bright blue. Gather these materials, slivers of wet soap, hair swirling pond water, black oil. Amar pita duyedena, Nanu says. So ma palms the pink soap, slides it between her small hands before arcing its jasmine-scented froth across her back. Gather these materials, the afternoon's undrowned ceremonies, the nattering of cicadas. Yes, yes, yes. Ma watches Nanu disappear into water, light, many-leafed, like bits of bombshells gleaming like rose petals upturned in wet grass, like the long river in red twilight. 1971, the entire world unraveling, like thread your mother pulls and pulls away from the hem of her dress. In America, the bodies of men and women march forward in protest, rage candling their voices. In Vietnam, monks light themselves on fire, learning too late how easily the body burns. Soon, the men whose stomachs flinch inward will struggle the curved blades of their bayonets into khaki-clad bodies. But for now, they lean against the cool stone walls of your grandparents' house, eyes closed as your ma watches her ma twirl in the pond, longs to encircle herself in ripples of light her fingers might arpeggio across green water. She loves the small diamond in her ma's nose, its sunlit surface glittering like curled hot metal she knows falls from the sky, though never before her eyes. Why call any of it back? Easy enough to descend with your ma, down and down hard stone steps. How I loved, she says, to watch her. Yes, reach forward to touch the sun-ambered softness of the bright sari Nanu retwines around her. Yes, your eyes dazzled by the diamond's many-chambered light. It shines so, Ma says, though it's not you she's speaking to anymore, caught as she is in this reeling back. 1971, and a Bangladeshi woman catches the gaze of a Pakistani soldier through rain-curved palm trees. Her sari is torn from her. She bathed the same way each time, Ma says. The torn woman curls into green silence. First, she would fold her sari, then dive in. Yes, the earth green with rain, the water green. Then she would wash her face until her nose pin shined. Ahare, how it shined, his eyes green. Then she would ask me to wash her back. The torn woman a helix of blood. Then she would cream into her beautiful skin. The soldier buttoning himself into khaki. Yes, call it back again. I'm almost done, internet. I'm almost done. Two oceans between you. Where am I? Two oceans. Where are the two oceans? Two oceans between you. But still you can see her running a finger along the granite counter in the sun-spilled kitchen, waiting for the tea to boil before she drives past old West Texas oil fields still bright with bluebells. But tell me, she asks, why couldn't you research the war from here? Gather these materials, these undrowned ceremonies, tea poured into a cup, a woman stepping lightly across green field into a green pond. But don't tell her the country of her birth became a veined geography inside you, another body inside your own. Oh, Ma, she sobs, I miss her so. You open the door to step out to the concrete veranda. Look, the moon is an ivory scythe gutting another pond across which the reflection of a young girl's braid ripples. Tell me, you say, about 1971. Thanks for bearing with us, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarfia. That was beautiful. So next up is Samira Sadeque. Samira is a Brooklyn-based Bangladeshi journalist and poet writing on immigration, mental health, and gender. Her poetry appears on Button Poetry and in a number of publications, including No, Dear Magazine, Black Horse Review, Active Muse, and In Full Color. Samira, stage is yours.
Of course I am. Hi. Am I good now?
All good.
I trust me to do that. Thanks, Jane, and thanks everyone for being here this evening, and to Asian American Writers Workshop for organizing this. This feels more timely than ever, and I just wanted to share, as I was preparing my readings for this evening, I realized that a number of poems that I've written under different circumstances somehow just feels very relevant right now, because I think a lot of different kinds of grief just belongs to whatever we're going through right now. And I'll be reading from some of that. But for my first poem, I actually wrote it just last month during lockdown. I was reporting on how the Bangladeshi community in New York has been affected. As Jeffrey mentioned, there are many different factors that make the community particularly vulnerable. And there are also been reports about how the South Asian community has a lot of more deaths than what's being documented. And there's a lot of discrepancy with the data and the numbers. And while reporting on the story, I overheard a man at a local Nepali grocery store talking about the death toll in the South Asian community, and this poem was inspired from that. It's called At the Nepali Grocery Store, Day 33 of Lockdown. The aisles don't measure even 6 feet wide, neither do the lives. Still, when the woman in a makeshift mask accidentally brushes against me, I shriek inside, how dare you? How audaciously small our hearts shrink when we're stuck in the narrow window of choices, life or less life, death or tomorrow, stale bread or a father. The man in the next aisle is talking about number of deaths. In a foreign language on this foreign land, he says, what happened was not right. In his throat, the grief of a country lost. Survived earthquakes, survived riots, survived genocides to arrive to a door that won't even know how to count him. New York City's chief medical examiner's office no longer sends out announcements on the nature of death. Nobody knows where the dead come from anymore. We all believe what is in the air as though it's the only thing to love before it swallows us too. After I return and sanitize my keys, sanitize my hair, sanitize the corner of my nails, I witness quietly the emptiness of a living room, idle with worn-out lamps. Nobody brushes past me by mistake, and I still shriek inside, how many rivers we have crossed to not arrive here. I bring home the voice of the man in the next aisle who perhaps left a motherland, who perhaps spent decades to make his tongue dance the right way, only to have to say, what happened was not right. As though America owes him an answer, as though he knows he will never get it, as though the riots and earthquakes and genocides that were to be history have followed him here down to the narrowness of a grocery store aisle, only to brew another country in his throat. Thank you. For my next poem is something I wrote in 2018 after there were student protests in Bangladesh calling for a change in the education system. And even though student protests are very much the fabric of our society, the fabric of the birth of the nation, it has since become sort of a political tool where the common man falls collateral damage in the violence of the protests, and they often go unmourned and unaccounted for. So this is a poem sort of as a tribute to them, and it's called "No One Sings Love Songs for My Countrymen." No one sings love songs for my countrymen. Dhaka is a bloodshed letter, has always been. In it, mother says, child, listen. Child, don't bleed. Child, come home. Dhaka is a broken lamp, rimming tea stalls behind the early hours of a dawn. Yawning behind the men, always standing by the storefronts, their hands behind their backs, behind their dreams, behind their eyes, following the road into the sun. In it, they wait for eternity, or sometimes just for the lottery. No one sings love songs for my countrymen. They are the heart still beating in the city's bullet-ridden body. Their footsteps march, have always marched, for days, for years, for decades, as though it is the only language they have ever known. Dhaka is a half-alive sun, a half-done protest, recurring like an unfinished orgasm, maybe to give birth to freedom. Maybe it is the only language they have ever known. In it, the children don't die with hammers or on the wrong bus or while learning how to curl their palms into fists. In it, the children grow up. They sing love songs for our countrymen. Thank you. For my next poem, I wrote it on July 2nd, 2016, or in July, actually, throughout the month. It was right after a terrorist attack at a cafe in Dhaka killed more than 20 people. And it was one of the most violent attacks that we have witnessed. And I remember in the days afterwards how the streets just went quiet, and even our homes, people just stopped talking. It was the last few days of Ramadan, which is usually very festive, and we just would not have conversations because we were in so much shock. And something about the silence that has been around in the last 2 months has reminded me of that, which is why I wanted to share this poem this evening. It's called Aftermath, July 2nd, 2016. Day 1. I wake up with last night's fingerprints all over me. Is it over? Is it over? Is it over? Day 1, second half. We're corpses walking around the house, around Gulshan, around Dhaka, our shocked silence playing piano chords across the skyline. Dhaka has become a ghost city and an overused hashtag as we await the names of the dead. Day 2 has not begun yet, and yet a lifetime has passed. I lay in bed. It is 3:24 a.m. and there is a cobweb of questions running turnstiles on the insides of my stomach. I've checked the lock 3 times this hour just in case. There's silence splattered across the city, colonizing the alleyways, the occasional rickshaw bells, that space between mother's words as she tries to put names to her prayers for the fallen. Day 2, second half. Today is the first time I've left home. My hair smells of unslept nights. The shopkeeper sighs before I can even greet him, and right there, I see it. How we became, overnight, a people who sigh before they can breathe. a people who sigh to mark their existence, a people made only of remnants from yesterday. Day 3, we lay in bed, you and I, half naked, half asleep, our interrupted dreams falling into this space we didn't know how to name. I laugh for the first time in days, and you don't remind me that the world is an abandoned building with unlit windows, that our bodies are mere world maps punctured with war wounds and a history that refuses to stop repeating itself. Day 4. Old lovers have begun writing letters, turning over hourglasses, making an even bigger fog out of time. The girls at the orphanage are happy. We paint henna on their skinny wrists, and they tell us twisted endings of fairy tales. We try to hide the emptying oceans inside us. They raise their eyebrows with wonder. It unlocks something in me that has been buried in an abyss since Friday. Hope. Day 5. My father is an old man. He likes that I played a song for the first time since. He lies down under a ceiling fan and cries a thunderstorm. And amid that roar, I hear a whisper with clenched fists, "Where is my city? Where is my city? Where is my city?" Day 6. It is the end of the holy month. People are wearing new clothes but can barely cover the growing wound the size of a nation. We eat sweetmeats in between talking about what happened and pretending that it might get better. After the celebrations, we stay up, locking and relocking the front door, the kitchen, our breath. Day 7. It is still dark outside. Mother says the world as we know it has changed for 3 lifetimes, and television tickers agree as we lie scattered under ceiling fans, on new and old beds, in the arms of lovers, our insides screaming silently, "What have we done? What have we done? What have we done?" Thank you so much. Are we good on time? Because I just have another short poem.
For it.
Okay, thank you. And just before I read the last poem, I want to once again thank the Asian American Writers Workshop for organizing this. It's been a very difficult and frankly bizarre couple of months, especially as different communities are being affected in very grave and different ways. And so I thank you for holding this space for us to share, and for our listeners for tuning in. Thank you. My last poem I wrote at a time when I was grieving the death of a family member who passed away in Bangladesh, and I was here in New York. And sort of the last few days, just watching how communities can get together to grieve or just for funerals has reminded me of this empty space, because we as a community, we as a culture kind of grieve with our community, right? So just the absence of that has been terrifying to witness in the last few weeks. And so here's my last poem. It's called How to Mourn the Dead, Notes from a Different Land. On the phone, I ask mother how to say I am sorry. She says, out here, you don't say that to the children of the dead. I say, out here you do. That's how they say they're here for you. They say sorry. She says, that makes no sense. I hold a pause on the phone. The electric cables connect us through an underwater system, overhearing skies. Thank you, science. Now I can hear mother clearly. She still mixes up her V's and W's. Her mouth caves in at the wrong syllables. I try again, Ma. What do I say? They lost their father. How do I say I wish I were there, that I'm thinking of you? She says, out here, you don't say that to the children of the dead. Out here, you show up, clean their bed sheets, bring them food they won't eat, you bring it anyway. Out here, we gather like stars on a sky, like infinity. No one says sorry, no one says I wish. They pick up the broken bangles, they hold the woman while she wails, they wail while the imam prays. They say, we out here crying with you don't need my words, you have my silence. Out here, we grieve without words, without mixing up V's and W's. Without the ocean drowning in our mouth, we grieve in silence, together, always together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samira. Last but not least, our final reading for tonight is by Nadia Q. Ahmad. Nadia is a poet, writer, and editor born and raised in New York and currently based in Queens. Her work has been published in the Shoreline Review, Poets and Writers Magazine, Newtown Literary, Splice Lit, and the workshop's own Open City and the Margins. We're so thrilled to have Nadia here. Nadia, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Laal NYC is doing such great work, and I'm very grateful also to be among Tarfia and Samira as some of the voices to help uplift this work. And of course, thanks to the workshop for having us, to Bushra, Tiffany, Rob, any and all interns, everyone at the workshop is amazing. My first poem is called Stretching Strength. 74th and Roosevelt, a voice cracks next to me. Apu, stretcher karone strong hobe. Sister, you will be stronger for the stretching. I don't turn my head, but imagine the first woman touching the arm of the second. True enough, I think, and the muscles around my knees tense with understanding. But then my memory bends and I hear my mother, who has been teaching me since I was 5 to stand up again even though you've scraped your shins on the jagged, pebbled sidewalk. These days, when she notes to me sometimes the pains blooming in her own body, she lays a foundation of resilience too, and stresses the last part of the word stress, packs it in like she's chewing down on gum, turns it in her alchemy to stretch. Stretcher karone strong hobe. Stresser karone strong hobe. You will be stronger for the stress. I'd read an article by a poet and writer a few weeks before that offered translation as not a funnel but a sieve, as an art about the rough-hewn meaning that shapes the world. I look down. On the sewer grate is the word foundry, the same one from a colleague's word scramble game we unjumble every day. I look up. Foundry, a place where metal or glass is melted and formed into particular shapes. Isn't that stress? Isn't that stretching? The Jackson Heights corner, this concrete, this metal, so hard on us all, because such is our hardness and such is our strength. I wanted to extend Eid greetings to everyone, for those of you who are celebrating. And if you probably know that Ramadan just passed, and so I thought I'd share some poems that I wrote over the past few Ramadans, both inspired by Kazim Ali's book Fasting for Ramadan, and also by a group of poets on Facebook, Poetry a Day. Shout out to all of you if you're watching. Ramadan, Day 8, 2020. I take my notebook out to the steps to write a poem, but have to put it down. A car pulls up. A neighbor's hello, a story of people she works with, of COVID-19. The smells of food have been sitting on the air. Then Ma's voice steps through the window, asking her to wait, sister, I'll give you some dinner. We are about to eat soon. While everything simmers, Ma raises the window screen, saying, I can't see you very well. When the cat tries to jump out, she calls me in to shoo him away. Once the food is packaged, I walk it the few feet over, offer it, hands extended and taking a step back. Our neighbor receives it through the doorway. I hold my breath, having forgotten my mask. Thank you, my love. God bless. Maybe the poem was there in between our hands. Bismillah. I drink the first sip. I wanted to echo both Tarfia and Samira's thoughts about solidarity and timeliness of this reading and of the work that Laal is doing. And I suppose also just use this moment as an opportunity to remind myself and also invite all of us to kind of think about the ways that both our successes and our struggles as Asian Americans, or really of any identity, are intertwined with those of Black, Latinx, and Indigenous communities, which is why spaces like these are so important, like the ones that the workshop carves out, the ones that Laal carves out. They allow us to have these conversations. They allow us to learn our history, practice empathy, and hopefully, delve into it, but also turn it into action. So just wanted to be able to voice that here, and always grateful for the workshop to allowing for us to allow us to have that space. This poem is a ghazal. It's called Beneath the Rage. Strength of alderwood, submerged, shows beneath the rage. Reach into water, she who knows beneath the rage. Her lungs churn, burning sifts ashes from dust to dust, gather blessings, but count her woes beneath the rage. Blind stone buried deep, darkness holds it close, then far. Is it caution? No. Something else grows beneath the rage. Examine the patient, spin more questions, dangle and release. What did you forego beneath the rage? Scholar, adorn you in lapis, but look, center red. O poet, it already rose beneath the rage. Excuse me. Ramadan, day 18, 2020. 1. Gauze lays over the body today, overcast, covering what? 2. The sky becomes darker as I continue to work. A sudden rush of rain, blessed are we. 3. Recite, in ecstasy of the approaching night, black as soot and dark as clot, mind twirling, connected by silver moonstring, straight to the waxy clay on the holy goddess' fingertips, yet I am no puppet. I recite, making my presence known, arms outstretched, waves cresting to the sky, high tide cannot be pulled down, sandy brown of skin, tell me here in the mid-afternoon light, copy edits strewn on the bed, laundry spilling out of the bag, a sun shower come and gone. Tell me how to keep the channels open, how to keep my mouth open wide enough to receive the waves, to swallow them whole. This next poem is going to be the last one I'll read. Again, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And if you are willing and able, please click on the donate link, support Laal, support the workshop. All right. This is Ramadan night 27, 2018. Ablution. What a fluid word. It sounds like forgiveness. This hope pools at my feet, then begins to flow down the drain. I come to the jainamaz, 2 rakah. The one intention, reflection, the other, poetry. The night of power is equal to 1,000 months, and I find this almost extreme. How many of us can have that much forgiveness? But so many things are indeed extreme, aren't they? A flower, the moon, a stone, a wound, the thunder. From Quran 13:3, behold, verily in these things there are signs for those who consider. I exhale. Consideration is all that is asked. Sometimes the passive construction works best. I exhale again, my mind turning. I read the translation with she's instead. such power in imagery, such extreme power. From 1312 and 1313, it is she who doth show you the lightning, by way both of fear and of hope. It is she who doth raise up the clouds heavy with rain. Nay, thunder repeateth her praises, and so do the angels with awe. She flingeth the loud-voiced thunderbolts, and therewith she striketh whomsoever she will. Yet these are the people who dare to dispute about God with the strength of her power supreme. I contemplate, I consider this until the rising of the dawn. I prefer the questions to answers. I decide on the poetry of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Tarfia, Nadia, Samira, for joining us tonight, for your words. We're so honored to have hosted you and so glad you could be with us. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. To keep up with the workshop, like I said, visit aaww.org. Please donate if you can to Laal and their important work on the ground helping Bangladeshi women in the Bronx. The link, like I said, is up either here or here, one of the corners, and also in our chat. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.